Chapter 3, Harmony, Musical Depth. So, harmony describes the vertical aspects of music, because the melody, time has to pass, and it's horizontal from left to right, where harmony is when you stack up notes from top to bottom. Chord is a simultaneous sounding of 3 or more pitches. And I kind of object to that because we use the word in guitar, we play power chords. It's really only 2 pitches. And so we'd say, we'd call it a power chord. But in the book, right, they refer as 3 notes. So, and they're alternate pitches of a scale. So if we have a scale, if I play the first note, skip the second note, play the third note, skip the fourth note, and play the fifth note, I have a chord, and we call that a triad. And actually, with that scale, so if there are 7 different notes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8th one is the same as the first one, okay? Octave, 8. And if I play the first, third, and the fifth of that scale, I could play the second, fourth, and sixth. I could play the third, sixth, and eighth. Where am I, right? Right? Those are all chords, and the bottom note is a member of the scale, and I'm just playing every other note of the scale, right? The first note based on the bottom note of that scale. It's based on the second note of the scale, based on the third note of the scale, fourth note, fifth note, sixth note, seventh note, and the 8th note. It's the same as the first one, just an octave higher with the same pitches. And then here we refer to as major and minor scales. So every scale is a formula, actually, that's based on whole steps and half steps. Why doesn't it mention that here? Where does it mention that? Someplace else. Okay. So a minor scale. As opposed to a major scale. Minor scale. It's kind of cool. So there are different kinds of, many different kinds of scales, minor scales, and then, well, I don't know why it doesn't mention chromatic. It means you play every single note. That's all the notes we have. The tonic, and then we use the word tonic, meaning that it's from the tonal center. So if I'm playing that scale, right, we say the tonic is the first note of the scale. And so that means that's the tonality of that piece of music. It's going to be based on that scale. And then we use the word dissonance. Again, it's like consonance and dissonance. Consonance is nice. Dissonance is ugly, but it can be cool when it goes more like this. Dissonance, right? So we say that it's tension and resolution, right? So the dissonance is tension, and then it resolves to rest, right? Harmony. Scale, collection of pitches arranged in ascending or descending order. there are many, many scales, and people make up their own scales and then use them. But musicians, we sing and with these syllables, and they do this in foreign countries more than we do in the United States. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. I changed the tonal center, right? Or sometimes we just use numbers. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. That's an octave, right? The eighth note is the same as the first note. Here they're showing you the notes from the scale stacked up, right? So that's the first note. And we use the term triad to meaning a three-note chord. And it could be a major chord or a minor chord, right? Major or minor. Which one is major, which one is minor, right? Major chord, minor chord. Major chord, minor chord. Cool picture. We would say that this is symmetrical. And lots of times in music, we have symmetrical, right? It's the left and the right are not exactly in this picture, but it's somewhat symmetrical, right? Telling us about global warming. Again, consonance and dissonance. And so we would say it's stable and unstable, right? It's unstable, wants to be resolved. And we could say it's like this. These notes are dissonance, but I put it in this chord. It's disguised. I could leave without, but I put that note in there, and it has tension now because that dissonant, but it's disguised, and now it just sounds kind of interesting rather than ugly. This sounds ugly, perhaps, but in the chord, it just creates tension that wants to be resolved, right? Or this one, right? It has these two notes that are dissonant, and it makes a chord have tension, and it wants to be resolved. This one is at rest. It doesn't have any dissonance in it. And we would still say this is a triad, and it only has three notes, but I'm playing six, right? But the notes, there are only three different names, and this is an E chord. So just as an example, it has E, G sharp, and B. That's it. But there are 1, 2, 3 E's, 2 B's, that's 5, and 1 G sharp. But there's only E, G sharp, and B. And so it's still a triad, even though I'm playing 6 notes, because there's only 3 different names. So we have the resolution and relaxation fulfillment. Okay. Now here it says year 900, approximately the date the harmony was introduced in Western music. And we don't know that because we only have recorded music, meaning that it was written down. There was always music, even though it was written down. So we don't know what Plato listened to or Pythagoras. But Pythagoras talks about music and how emotional it was and describes it very clearly. And the instruments, we have pictures. We know they had instruments and they sang. And the music was probably much more complicated and at a higher level than we give them credit. And it's not something that just popped up later. So here, when they say approximate date harmony was introduced, that's written harmony. Okay. Again, Asian music, European music. So when we say Western music, well, we're really talking about music from Europe. Okay, so that's the end of chapter 3.